Hello guys, today we are going to be focusing our painting tutorial on Arnhem Heroes Part 2. This was a popular requested choice from a social media poll that I put out. So we're going to be looking at Brigadier Gerald Lathbury, who was part of the 1st Parachute Brigade Headquarters Unit. Now this is Arnhem Heroes Part 2, but I have featured Arnhem Heroes Part 1, so the first Kickstarter on the channel. The differences between the two is the first Kickstarter primarily focused on those troops, probably around the bridge that were really low on equipment and ammunition, whereas Part 2 is more focused on your specialist sort of units, so your recce regiment, as well as your guard pilots and a few of the heroes, and those in full attire. Once you have got your miniature ready to paint, you might not be painting Lathbury, you want to give them a prime. I normally go over a really light colour. To me, surface primer light grey is probably the best colour for priming from a rattle can, in my opinion, for figures. Obviously tanks might be a little bit different. Then for the Denison smock, I go with khaki. Now if you have been up to date with all the videos that I've posted, you will know that the Arnhem Heroes Part 1 painting tutorial, I used Middlestone. Middlestone is a really good colour for Panzerfaust, so it's a bit brighter than khaki. I just found that khaki actually just makes it look a little bit better, the Denison smock, so if you can, I would go with that. And then for the beret, I use wine red. Wine? God, that's a bit of a tongue twister. Wine red is, even though in this shot it looks quite red, it actually is a lot more maroon in colour, which is what you're going to be trying to go for with the British Airborne berets. They're not red, they're maroon. And then for the Denison smock, the camo aspects of it, the green, I'm going to go with retractive green. Now I paint the green first because the green goes on and then the brown goes over the green. So if you're looking at reference pictures, which is what I'd highly recommend. The Imperial War Museum, for example, has some fantastic ones on there. There's obviously lots of reference books out there as well. You can see that it almost looks like a big fat paintbrush has been used and just whacked on. This is the Denison smock Mark II. The Mark I, I think, was more green, and it was definitely painted on, whereas the Mark II wasn't, but it still looked like it was a paintbrush. So you can sort of see that we've got a really good sort of base for the green. Now we want to follow it up with the brown. So you're doing the exact same sort of thing. You're just doing like a big blob, but just letting the tip of the brush just slide off, opposed to just putting like just a blob on. And you can just add in little lines over the top of the green. And you can go as ruthless in terms of how much of the colour you want to go down with, or as little as you want. Every smock was different from what I could see, so yeah, just go with that. And then for the trousers, I'm going with English uniform. You can see that, I mean, it's pretty much obvious. So English uniform is going to be really applicable. It's a good colour. I also use English uniform for some of the other equipment, that being the water bottle. And obviously, if you can see part of his normal uniform at the top of the smock there, and you can just get it, which is what I'm doing there. And then for the webbing, I use US olive drab. Now I believe I used green grey, perhaps? No, Russian uniform World War II previously. I decided to avoid that this time, and I've decided to go with US olive drab. Just for something different, to make this video worth watching, so you're not just rewatching a rehashed video. And you can also paint the gaiters in that colour as well. So now we move on to the padded part of his smock, and that is obviously up around the collar area as per the picture on screen now. So that is more of like a khaki colour, but I'm going to go with old wood for that one, just to make it stand out a bit more, to make it really stand out actually. It's really just going to make that area pop. The details there, so why not try and make it look really good and make it stand out. And then the the very outer sleeves of the smock were painted in US dark green because they have like sort of a green elasticy band around there, so that's what I'm just capturing there. And then for the straps on the binoculars, I'm using German camo medium brown, so I apologise for the focus, it's going slightly in and out here. And then for any of the metal parts in his shoes, I'm using black grey, so he's holding onto a set of binoculars, so I'm going to be painting them in black grey, as well as his shoes, as I've just mentioned. You could paint them in black if you really wanted to, but they're going to have a black wash over the top, so they're going to become very dark very quickly. And so yeah, so really up to you what you want to do there. And then he's got his little tie for his uniform. He's very smart, this guy, so we're using khaki to capture that tie. This is a superb sculpted model by Paul Hicks. He's pretty much a legend in the 28mm field. So yeah, definitely the best British Airborne on the market currently for 28mm. I'm not sure when we verse it against AB Figure's 20mm, but we'll have to do a contest on that at some point. For the beret, we're using old wood because he didn't have the Airborne emblem on his actual beret, so we're using old wood for this one. And then we just want to get the beret, the band of the beret, where it meets the head, and we just want to paint that in black. And then with that done, we can give this guy a good wash. So I use the 0 oil and technical medium at a 1:1 ratio. For those of you that are unaware of why I go a 1:1 ratio, it's because I want to reduce the sharpness of the black wash. That's why I go with that 1:1 ratio. It's just thinning it down with its associate thinners or applicable thinners. Now it's all about going over what we've just painted. So for the Denizen smock, we are going back over it in khaki. So any of the area of the smock that you can see that was painted in khaki, just go over it and give it a highlight. This is a highlight, it's not a layer. I'm literally just putting in nice little details here. So I'm trying not to get rid of all of that dark base color. I'm just adding in nice little bits of detail. It's going to break the uniform up nicely, make it look camoed and make it really stand out on the tabletop. This khaki works wonders for the actual base color, better than Middlestone. Then in the exact same manner, we're using refractive green again, and we're going to just paint those green camo parts on the smock itself. Really, really straightforward. This is a really, really quick way of painting the Denizen smock and making it look really good. And then obviously we're also going to go ahead and do the brown as well. Saddle brown isn't like a super dark brown, it's sort of like an in-between. Exactly what it says on the tin really, but it's a really nice colour. It's probably not 100% accurate, but it looks good for this scale that we're trying to paint this camo on. Then for that padded bit on the neck roll, I'm using old wood. You can see there's quite a bit of it there. It's been sculpted on too, so it's really easy for you to paint it. It's not difficult at all. And then to highlight that, I'm using old wood and Iraqi sand at a 1:1 ratio to really brighten it up and make it stand out. Because it's worthy of standing out. Paul's put in a lot of effort to make these little minute details really pop, and yeah, it's really worth doing if you can. With that done, we can go ahead and use that US dark green on his on the end of the sleeves, as well as highlighting it with US dark green and German camo beige World War II. And it's already got the little lines on there, so for the highlight, you literally just add in a little line here and there. Now we're going back over the uniform in English uniform, so the trousers, his actual uniform underneath the smock, as well as the canteen. So you can see how I'm painting the uniform underneath the smock. Now I'm hitting the canteen, so there's 4 little rectangles around the webbing, so I'm just going to hit that, and then it's the trousers. So we're using that really dark base colour, leaving that in the recesses, and everything else is getting a really nice coat. Once that's done, we can then go with English uniform and khaki grey at a 1:1 ratio. this is really going to make it pop. And you can see I'm just adding in little lines on the top of those, that uniform that's coming out there, as well as the canteen, and then his trousers. So there's lots and lots of details, even on the trousers, lots of crease lines for you to hit for your highlight. Paul's just done such a fabulous job, and the Empress range of miniatures that come to you, the way they're produced and made are just always lovely, with very little cleanup or issues. Then for the webbing, we use that US olive drab again, and you can see that I'm going to focus on the pistol holster for this, just so you can really appreciate how I paint. So this is the original sort of base colour that I'm going to be painting the first layer on. You can see that I'm picking out the details, lots and lots of details in every aspect of this miniature, as I keep harping on about. So you can see that there's plenty to paint. Once I've painted that part, so I've pretty much painted the whole thing again, I use US olive drab and German camo beige at a 2:1 ratio. To apologise, it's not Russian uniform this time, it's US olive drab. And you can see that now I'm reducing the amount of that holster that I'm painting, but I'm really adding emphasis on those raised edges to really make them stand out just that bit more. So obviously where the top part of the holster meets the other part, I'm giving that a good fit, good go. You see it's really starting to take shape, and if you want to go really crazy, you can use that US olive drab and German camo beige at now a 1:1 ratio, and just reduce the amount that you're highlighting. So I'm just adding in a little line here and a little line there, an odd little scratch here and there, as you can see that I'm doing here, just making those outer edges of the holster really stand out. There's a nice little seam mark on the outer edge of the holster that I'm capturing. And then there's also the actual top of the holster. You can see the little seam that I've just got there, and then the very top of that holster. And all done. Lovely, lovely holster, and it's a beautiful thing to paint. So then the tie, we're going to go with khaki again. So the tie also has got tons of details, so you really don't need to use your imagination. You can just paint what's already sculpted on for you. And then to highlight that, I use khaki and stone grey at a 1:1 ratio. So just add little dots here and there, where the tie sort of meets the top of the shirt, and then just that nice long straight bit for the main part of the tie. Then for the binoculars, I'm using black grey, as well as for the shoes, and if you obviously had a Sten gun or a Lee Enfield, you'd be painting that in the same colour as well, those metal parts. So I'm just hitting the shoes. I'm not going too crazy with the shoes, they're going to get a bit of a weather when I base them anyway. And then to highlight the metal, so not the shoes, I use black grey and basalt grey at a 1:1 ratio, and that's just going to make those parts of the binoculars really pop. With that done, we can then highlight the straps of the binoculars that are around his neck. So we use German camo medium brown, so that's our first layer. And then once we've got those nice straight lines painted, we can go ahead and give it a highlight of German camo medium brown and orange brown at a 1:1 ratio. And this is literally just adding in a line. If you want to know what paintbrush I'm using, there's a link to it in the video description, as well as a video that I've got on the channel. You can see where I rate highly the paintbrush I'm using. So this is what it looks like so far. I think it looks pretty bloody good. So there's only a few more details we really need to worry about, and that is the beret. So we're using a wine red, and this is it. This is the final highlight. I'm pretty much going to paint the majority of it, leaving little bits of that dark base colour where it's sort of bulging and creasing, just to simulate obviously all the little creases and that would be in that beret that's forming around the top of his head. Once we've got that down, I'm then going to add in some little subtle details on that khaki smock. I'm going to use old wood for that. They were like a brass colour, but it just looks unrealistic at 28mm, so old wood or an Iraqi sand would really look great. You can see that's really making them pop. Then I'm also going to use old wood for the emblem on his beret. So I'm just adding a nice little bit of that old wood on there. Once we've got that down, we can then go ahead and give this a highlight, and the highlight colour that I'm going to use to highlight that is Iraqi sand, and it's just a little tiny dab of that in the middle and just on the outer edge. And with that done, this is how he's come out. So I'm going to do a actual flesh tutorial later on. So this is going to be part 2. But for part 1, we are finished. So let me know below if you've enjoyed this tutorial. How did you think the change from Middlestone to khaki came out for the actual smart? I've really enjoyed it. I've got to admit, these sculpts are just superb. I know I keep saying it, but they really are superb. If you've missed out on this Kickstarter, it is a real shame. However, I do believe Empress will be putting these out for retail at some point in the future. So make sure you keep an eye on Empress's page for that one. A huge thank you goes out to my fantastic Patreons and YouTube channel members. You guys are absolutely awesome. Special mention goes out to Patrick and Oscar for being the Panzer Aces. You guys are just bloody fantastic. That's going to be it for today, guys. Let me know below what you want to see next on the 28mm front, and I will catch you at the next one.